cliches. And I think one of the funny things about like writing and reading and people discussing books is what counts as a cliche and a trope. And as far as I can tell, a trope is a circumstance or plot device or event or arrangement of plot elements that recurs in a similar form over multiple narratives. And a cliche is anything you don't like that happens a lot, just like a trope. I'm sure I'm wrong about that definition. I've studied English. I should probably know this, but nobody took the time to actually define a lot of these terms for me. So I spent a lot more time like reading Faulkner and arguing about exactly how racist was he and what kind of racist. That's what we did in my English department in college. But I think cliche it's really funny how people use it. And I think you see a lot of cliches as a writer. You start to really notice them because you start seeing them in your own writing. So I actually made a list of uh 10 ways to feel like a heroine in a novel because I was writing a book with a girl main character because I only care about women's stories. And at least when I'm writing. And I was writing this main character and I wanted her to be different but still, derived from other characters. So I was very inspired by Harley Quinn and Deadpool and these types of trickster, maniac, but like charming kind of characters. And so I wanted to write a character that was similar to them. And I promise there will be jokes here. I'm not just like trying to sneak attack you with reading my novel. That's a thing writers do. Is if you talk to them for long enough, they're going to tell you the plot of their novel. They're going to explain to you what like the most insecurities they have about the novel. They're going to go into those in detail and they're going to try to get you to read it. If you talk to me, I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to probably send you a book at some point. You're not going to want to read it. Um Hopefully it's decently entertaining, but I will send you some type of manuscript and ask you for your feedback because I'm constantly looking for affirmation of my skills because writing is a lonely, insecure process. So, let's talk about 10 quick ways to feel like a heroine in a novel. Basically, I made this list because it was going to help me find out what to avoid. What was I not going to do in my book? Because I wanted a different sort of heroine. And so, 10 quick ways to feel like a heroine in a novel. Because let's face it, life is dull. Books are exciting. Things happen to people in them, and people have feelings. That's exhilarating. And you can bring that kind of excitement into your daily life with these quick ways to feel like a heroine in a novel. Romance and adventure, not guaranteed. Things don't work in real life like they work in books. I am continually upset by this. Oh, I learned about human interaction and how you speak to people and how you fall in love and how you argue and how you grow. Everything from that was in books. The shit I learned in real life, I try to forget because it's traumatic. Everything else was from books, and it has not been helpful because that's not what life is like. So here are 10 ways to add a little bit of novel to your day to day. Number one, dye your hair brown. It seems like this is Anne Hathaway in every movie. Like it's the same like you have to get it to just the right shade too. You need to think it's the plainest plain of the plain browns, but to others it needs to look like a sumptuous chestnut. You can also be a redhead, but only if you're fiery. And you can't be blonde unless you're a love interest or a Disney princess. This is like the same trope cliche. You'd be the judge of like, oh, she's ugly, but then she takes off her glasses. Oh my god. Oh, she's beautiful. Nobody could see her face before. We all just saw a glassed blur. Bullshit. You can still see ass and titties. Somebody got glasses on. I'm just saying, whether or not you can see her eyes, like eyes are the window of the soul, but that ain't the only thing that's turning people on. I don't finish these 10, I'll finish it next week. Maybe not. Because next time, well, let me finish some of these. 2, if you want to feel like a heroine, lock eyes with a stranger across the room. If they're attractive or menacing or both, bonus points. Number 3, have a huge spat with your friends and family, causing a temporary to permanent separation, putting you in a liminal space where you undergo new experiences and meet new people who bring you to a new stage of self-awareness. That's a pretty classic way to feel like you're a heroine in a novel. Number 4, trip and fall. Bonus points if you get an injury as well as an illness that keeps you in bed for weeks. That is very Jane Austen, alright? But make sure your mom knows to let the love of your life come and sit by your bedside in concern. Otherwise, the whole thing is moot. Thing number 5, if you want to feel more like a heroine in a novel, be an orphan. I'm guilty of this too. Writing complex parent-child relationships is hard, alright? If you're not already an orphan, this step can be tricky. But a true plucky heroine never gives up. Number 6, you can move to a new school, or if you can't move right now, fall in love with the new kid in class, or move to a new city, or fall in love with a person who's just moved into town. If the new guy is pretty gross, start by being enemies, and then over time your arguments will show each other your true selves. Another way to feel like a heroine, number 7, is to join an institution that will undermine and underestimate you. You'll be the underdog. You can do this by joining any job at any company in the US. Probably in other places too. I don't know. Maybe Norway has their shit together about sexism. They seem pretty nice. Number 8, to feel like a heroine, seek a mentor, preferably in a mountain somewhere. Bonus points if they're real cranky and don't want to help you initially, but then you prove yourself in some manner, or they feel extra bad for you. And if you can't get to a mountain, then just like take karate at your local community center or something. It works. Number 9, cultivate a dark secret or hidden sexual fantasy. If you don't really have one and you're having a difficult time like coming up with one, a quick way to get that kind of dark past is to borrow $20 from a friend and not pay them back. You can feel guilty about that. Or you could sell your soul in exchange for everlasting life. Either of those are really good ways to add some spice and feel like you're in a novel. And then the top way to feel like a heroine in a novel is to constantly talk about how your only friends are your books. And you're so introverted and clever. And did we mention that all of your friends are books? Yeah, this is definitely one that I'm guilty of. And I know a lot of writers are. And that we do. Like, when I was writing this most recent main character, I specifically made it so that she had at least one friend and that she did not talk about how, like, books were her only friends through her childhood. I mean, I did basically the same thing. I made her obsessed with movies and comic books. So actually, maybe I did the same trope, cliche, and have absolutely broken no new ground. But that's fine. Because when I write, I really just want people to enjoy it, and this is something that I have learned over time. When I was in college, I definitely wrote to upset people and to, like, I want to make people think when they're in the audience. And now I'm like, I just want people to have a good time and feel good when they are reading what they're reading. And I think that's a lot of like the myths that we have to break through as a writer is that you are writing for and with other people. You are not a lone genius sitting in your garret writing the next great American novel. Never trust anyone who uses the phrase next great American novel and says that it's something that they are attempting to accomplish. They will cheat on you because their sense of self-worth is so very. But I think a big thing that writers have to get over is this idea of the lone genius. And to that end, to follow my own advice, this upcoming session of the show, I'm going to be having guests. and together we're going to do sketch comedy, and I'm going to interview them, and they're going to be comedians based all over, some improvisers, some writers, some stand-ups. So every week I'm going to have a guest, and not only are we going to do kind of an interview, so you get that element of hearing a little bit about these working artists, or at least on their way to working artists, but you'll also get to see some of the stuff they're working on. So we'll either do a scene they've written, or I'll help them do a bit, or they'll get to do a little bit of stand up, or we'll do some improv for you. So, really excited to collaborate with people. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about writers is just remembering that art does not happen in a vacuum, and you are beholden to thousands upon thousands of years of human storytelling. That without all of those beautiful stories and everything you've read and all the beautiful people in your life, you would not be able to create. So, thank you to all the beautiful people in my life who help make it so easy and wonderful to create. And I will see you next time.